Folks, the computer doesn't seem to be cooperating. Seems like it is having, it's coming?
It's coming, it just takes a second.
All Ross needs to do is go near the computer and just all stand up at once. That's the magic of Ross Miller.
No,
So,
I was using the force to make it go on.
You are good to go.
Mr. Rock, would you please read the certification of the closed session, please?
Actually, Mr. Broderick, if you're gonna reconvene, you won't read that until the end. After you
Oh.
close session.
Thank you.
Just in recess.
Thank you. Do we,
You just go right on to the.
no, procedurally, I'm asking a question. We won't be able to read it at the end because we'll be going into closed session after.
You'll read it after the,
Thank you.
after
That's
closed session.
What I want to clarify. Thank you. We are now in open session. The closed session will continue after the open session. So, here, we have someone volunteering for the Pledge of Allegiance today.
October, our kids come back with GW, I think is doing it, so we're gonna do the pledge together tonight. Turn it over to our students the rest of the year.
And then I'll read it. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have a couple of recognitions. Mr. Dermeyer. Oh,
Just kidding.
Mr. Miller is pinch hitting for Mr. Jeremiah. He's under the weather today.
another one out with COVID?
I do not know his outage, sir. But-
Yeah.
So, good evening, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, and Sheriff. It's my pleasure to come before you tonight to just acknowledge that September 8th was World Physical Therapy Day, and October is National Physical Therapist Day. And we do have two amazing physical therapists in our county that work with our students, Barbara Riley and Michelle Faber. And they do a great job working with our students on helping them to basically with all the PT needs. And so just want to recognize them tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Hoffman.
Oh, that's clever. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, I'm here in recognition of National IT Professional Day. National IT Professional Day celebrated the third Tuesday of each September and was established in 2015 to honor IT professionals who do the critical but often unseen work to keep our networks and applications running. Mr. Sean Terry is our Executive Director of Technology. He leads that department. He has a stout group of team that he is continuing to build that really do help in keeping our school division up to date with what we're doing. He recently completed a big project with his whole team where there's a huge distribution of laptops to our students, and we are now all caught up and we're ready to move forward. So we're very happy for that group. They do a great job. We're very thankful for them and all of that under Sean's leadership.
Mr. White, may I have one, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I'm counting correctly in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 New Kent High School graduates making up our IT team.
That's
That's great.
Not counting, right? Yeah, they'll count. Yeah, so 5 graduates of our school are part of that team.
As an old IT professional, do we really make it happen?
Behind the scenes, I have nothing but faith that they do a great job every day. They do a lot of work.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Mr. Nichols.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, board members. A couple of meetings ago, we nominated New Kent Charles City Chronicle, Mr. Andre Jones, Mr. Rob Johnson, for the Virginia School Board Association Media Honor Roll. So tonight we want to formally recognize them because they've been through the process with VSBA. and we will make sure, I know they're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that they cover all aspects of our work, and are continually looking to increase that coverage. So, and they take great pictures. So we thank them for everything they do, and look forward to continuing to partner with them.
Thank you. Mr. Miller.
Members of the board, Dr. Nichols, also coming up, starting September 15th and running through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. We do have, this observance started with Lyndon B. Johnson back in 1968. And currently in New Camp, we have 210 students who are Hispanic background, and also we have staff members who are Hispanic background. And we appreciate the heritage that they bring and aspects of culture they bring to our community. And so we do a variety of things. Each of our schools have different ways in which they're recognizing that. And in our classes, we're doing activities to recognize the contributions of Hispanic Americans as well. So I just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention.
Thank you. Thank you. So our recognitions we've gone through our recognitions, and we typically have a break. So those of you who are here only for recognitions may leave, and we'll have a 5-minute recess and then reconvene. Thank you. I know.
That's your.
Yeah, no.
Mr. Terry.
Call the school board meeting back to order. We're now in open session once again. First thing we have on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. By now, you have had the opportunity to review the items listed on the consent agenda, including minutes from previous meetings and the superintendent's recommendations regarding personnel matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second's been made. Joanna, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
And Mr. Reimer?
Aye. The consent agenda has been passed unanimously. At this point, I'd like to point out that two of our members are missing tonight. Ms. Kuma is very sick, and Mr. Brodsky is traveling. Next, we have acknowledgement of the new business. And the first thing on the list is the acknowledgement of crisis management and emergency evacuation plans. Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols. As you said, we are here this evening to acknowledge the crisis management emergency evacuation plan. Each of our schools completes one of those. They put into this document all of the resources which they would utilize in any emergency management situation, and they also give us a copy of it up here. It has been made available to you. Dr. Nichols is holding it right there if you would like to peruse it at any point. It is required that y'all acknowledge that we've done that and put that together as part of our emergency plan for the year.
And may I add, board members, that we should, if you want to review it, just bring yourselves to the attention of Dr. Nichols and Joanne, and you can come, it'll be here at the office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Mr. Miller, the SOL accreditation update. This should be interesting.
Mr. Chair, before Mr. Miller starts, and Mr. Miller may have this in his comments. We plan for this to be a multi-part board presentation. So in the next 3 board meetings at least, we're going to talk accreditation, starting with current, here's where we are. But if you've been following the Virginia Department of Education, they completely revamped what that means starting this year. So meeting 2 will be new accreditation system. Here's what it looks like. And hopefully by November, the State Department will know what our current data looks like in the new system, and we'll bring that publicly as well. So we'll be talking accreditation for the next 90+ days or so.
Yep. Thank you. That's what I meant by interesting.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm done.
Mr. Miller.
So, good evening again. And so each September we come before you to go over sort of where we stand accreditation-wise. The state has not released this data quite yet publicly on their website. We would like to give you all a heads up as to what we anticipate coming out. And so just want to run through each of our schools. I'm going to start with a little explanation. This is our last year under this accreditation model, but I just want to make sure that anybody who's watching, or if you have any questions, just so that you understand sort of what we're looking at as we go through this. So each school is judged on, let's see, 8-9 criteria, depending on the level. Elementary and middle are judged on 6, and then high school gets to add 3 more in. So, so the first there is academic achievement for English, and so that is an overall everybody, and it includes growth. So students who basically pass, demonstrate growth, and or if English, our ESL students, if they show growth on their English assessment for English proficiency, then that would be counted in that number as well. And so level 1, it means that you are basically exceeding expectations and or at or above standards. So the academic achievement in English is there. Achievement gap for English, where it breaks it down into different achievement groups. So by ethnicity or by, like I said, English as a second language, students with disabilities, all are in their own groups, economically disadvantaged in its own group. To be in a level 1 there, every single one of those groups has to be performing at level. You can have one that is slightly below level and still be a green on that one. But if you have more than one, then you drop into a yellow. If you have any reds, which means you're well below level, then you drop into a red for that. Academic achievement for math is the same as academic achievement for English, just it's on the math test. Same thing with the achievement gap for math. Academic achievement for science is overall pass rate for science. And then chronic absenteeism It's defined as students missing more than 10% of the year. So for typical school division, that's 18 days. And you, to be a level 1, you have to be less than 15% of your students that are at that level. So as you see here, our first school, New Kent Elementary School, is all green. They're all level 1. And so we anticipate them being fully accredited as well as being at or above standard in every area.
Mr. Chair? Yes. Mr. Ball.
So this represents what your expectation is from the information that you have? Or has this information been submitted to the state and just hasn't been?
So the state
Published.
has put this, they put this report together. We've been able to take a look at it. This is what their preliminary report says we're going to be at.
Okay, so this is not speculation, your speculation. This is actually cumulative data that says, the state says this is how it's going to come down.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on specifics, is that?
We're just waiting on them to actually go ahead and change it on their website. It should be by the end of the month.
Okay.
That's why we wanted to go ahead and give it to you today, because it'll be before your meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Just a second, Mr. Pagano?
Yes, Mr. Miller, just one question for clarification for the public. Is there a level above level 1?
No, there's,
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to jump onto your question more. We have the exact data that the state will release. We're just waiting on their timeline to do it. So what we're showing you tonight is what is official. It's just not official yet.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what I was asking, because if it's not, there's no need in you wasting your breath or us
Right.
spending the time.
yeah, this isn't just us speculating.
This will be what you see. We just like to give it to you before it's actually publicly released.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Nichols.
you.
So our next school, George Watkins, also is expected to be all green at or above level in every area.
Excellent.
So Quinton Elementary School will be green everywhere except for their achieving gap in English. And that is their students with disabilities population is slightly above the standard that we're looking for, that the state's looking for, and so that's why they're yellow there. And slightly, if you're yellow, you're slightly below the mark. Red is over 10% below the mark. So
Mr. Chairman, yes. So, Mr. Miller, what do we do with that? What happens? You see that, we have the yellow, how does that, what do we do once we see that?
So each school every year puts together a comprehensive school improvement plan, and they've just finished putting those together. And so a school with the yellow, that's going to be highlighted in that plan, and they're going to have steps in there. This is how we're going to be attacking that. And then from a division level, we all push in and say, okay, how can we support you in that effort, and work with them on development of the plan as well as implementation of that.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, so, Mr. Miller, we reviewed some of this at the strategic plan meeting, which you guys did an excellent job presenting the data. For my fellow board members that were not there, can you just revisit the idea behind how some of these groups, which may be very small, hit a percentage and then trigger, right, the
Sure.
yellow or the red rating?
Sure, yeah, so some of our subgroups, basically 30 is, you have to have at least 30 students for you actually to populate you to get a score on them. Some of our subgroups are sitting at 30. In fact, one of the subgroups he's referring to, our ESL population in one of our schools, it's on a cumulative test, so a test over multiple years with like math. You take it in grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8. If you have, if you don't have basically 30 in 1 year, say we had 10 students in 6th grade, none in 7th, and none in 8th, which is very typical for us, is so they may score so 1 year, next year, you may have the same kids 3 years. Well, then if they don't have 30 at one time, they take a 3-year average, and you got 30 over 3 years, so maybe the same kids multiple times, adding up to get you to basically over those 3 years, they didn't perform on the level you're looking for, so you're at a yellow or red, but it's the same 10 kids. And even if we're moving them forward and helping them to grow, it's such a small percentage that like 1 or 2 students can throw off the entire percentage. So it does become a little bit of a numbers game from time to time when you're talking about small numbers of students.
Mr.
Well, if that's the case, then if it's the same 10 kids in 3 years, then am I missing something, or that's not impressive to me? That these same kids are not performing any better than they were the first time that they were?
Yeah, the hope is, yes, that you're making growth on those kids the whole way through. And sometimes if you can grow that percentage, basically about 10% of your students each year, then you can get a bypass on it. But it doesn't always happen. And so, but it does sort of throw off the data when you have the same 10 kids, hopefully over 3 years, yes, you're seeing an improvement. But if they have a poor 6th grade year, that becomes an average into all of that and can keep you from getting up to where, even if your growth is there by 8th grade.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mr. Chair, may I add on to your question?
Yes.
I think the point Ross is trying to illustrate here is in a school of 860 kids, you can have 10 kids that become their own gap group, which is.
They're a separate cohort, basically.
Right, it's such a small number, but it's still work we have to do, it's work that'll be in that.
So I have a number of questions around these numbers. First of all, is Quentin different in the composition of his student base? Do they have more special ed kids? Do they have fewer special ed kids?
So also in this data, good point, is Quentin also housed last year several of our student with disability programs. And so they did have a larger pool group there. They do have our highest disadvantaged group as well in there. They do not have the benefit of a 3-year average as well.
Right, because their population is large enough.
Well, they've only had 2 years. And all of the other schools do have 3 years worth of data, which can help you. It can only help you. Basically, if your 3-year average is lower, it's not going to help you.
So do we take medians? Do we know what the medians are? So, I mean,
Like
we know how bad averages can look when
Right.
data is skewed. It'd be good to have median numbers so that we could compare them to the averages and see if there are outliers in the data.
So if we take a look at that, it doesn't apply at the same level.
I understand that, but
Yeah,
as long
we
as
do
we
that.
know the medians.
Yes.
So, and what do they know?
So they're fairly close. We do have some outliers, but they do hover typically right around where the average is.
And given that we know about the outliers, are the outliers a special category of disability, or is it just that we haven't been able to target them for learning yet?
That I'd have to get further data on.
Thank you. Yes, Chair.
Yeah, I'm still, I guess, lost a little bit in this. I'm more concerned about the individual child than the accumulation of numbers. So how do we address that? Because I'm hearing, trying to make this 30 and, so that the evaluation meets the standards for evaluation. But what if that same kid in 6th grade is the same kid triggering 3 years in a row? What are we doing with that? Because it's important that, and I know that you feel the same way, the division does, but how do we address that one individual student?
So good question. So with our students, we have basically our SSD process, student support plan process, where if a student's struggling, and it happens before we get to SLLs, hopefully, usually it does, but sometimes it does get to SLL, and it's a surprise when we go there. But if a student's struggling in class, basically we pull together, our teacher starts working on basically some interventions in class. Then we have a larger group that comes together, looks at those interventions, looks at the data, and works with them on putting in more interventions to help the student if they're not making progress. And if they continue not making progress, then we'll slide a larger group, and then finally, if need be, we'll start to look at, well, does the student have a disability because they're not responding to those interventions? And do we need to look at eligibility process to see if the student needs some extra supports that are provided through an IEP?
Excellent, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay, Ross?
All right, so at Newgate Middle School, we're green in English, academic achievement overall, math overall, math gap, and chronic absenteeism. We are yellow in the achievement gaps for English, over English. And again, that's going to be in the area of students with disabilities, is the area that's a gap. Then for science, we fell slightly below basically the cutoff for that. And so that is definitely an area for a focus this year, or both of those actually.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Honestly, I didn't come here tonight just to have a conversation with them and do alone. Although it seems like that. If we have a student, for instance, that's not proficient in English or science, and they're moving from middle school to high school, what do we do with that student as opposed to, it would be a lot easier in a lot of systems simply move them through the process. But what do we do to make certain that those students, before they go to high school, are prepared for the high school curriculum and are meeting standards before they're moved on?
Okay, so I guess two parts to it. I guess I'll get a clarification in a second. First of all, as students are struggling, every spring, our middle school and high school counseling as well as admin get together and talk through, hey, these are students that we've noticed have had struggles throughout middle school. If they've been in that SSD process, they have a support plan, those are all transferred up to the high school, and it's not just a, hey, here's paperwork, and then they leave. There's an actual discussion that happens of, here's the supports we have in place, and here's things that you can do over at your school to help continue that. And the high school admin and counseling picks that up and make sure that they pay extra attention to those students at the beginning, check their schedules, and make sure that they meet with them and their parents on what do they need to put in place at the high school level. I guess my question clarification there, are you hinting at retention or are you just looking at how are we supporting them to get over there?
Well, is it a situation where they shouldn't be in high school? That's my question.
So they're,
And that they remain in middle school until they're able to achieve what they need to achieve or learn.
yeah,
Because, I mean, we all know adolescence develops at different times and, yeah.
okay. So our retention policy, basically what that is, or promotion policy is actually reversed. As we're looking through basically their 8th grade year, and every year really, the principals are keeping an eye on where students are grade-wise, as well-wise, look at where they're performing. And then if we're looking at not moving a student on in a grade level, then it's a conversation both with the family as well as the administration and teachers to determine, hey, would it be appropriate to hold a student back at this point? What are they going to gain here? And is it more beneficial to keep them back or is it more beneficial for them to go on with supports? Because there's all sorts of philosophies and beliefs on basically what retention does, especially after you get past grade 3. And does it lead more towards people dropping out or does it lead actually towards growth in skills? And what are we putting there? Because if we are going to retain a student, we want to make sure we have a very clear plan in place of how we're going to improve skills over that second year that they didn't get the first year. But it is basically a conversation with admin, with the family, and with the state teachers on how we're listening past that student next year.
And that was my question. Is it a conversation or does it just automatically, we don't use retention and we move the student into high school, which is not, which becomes a burden.
Right.
You're just you're kicking the can down the road, so to speak. Not that,
Yeah.
that applies, as applicable to the student, but as a lack of a better idiom.
Yeah. No, so those are conversations that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One additional question, please.
Yes, sir.
The science achievement scores, was that broad-based or was there outlier data in that?
No, that was,
Broadly based.
yes. And so this year we have.
So does that point to a flaw in our curriculum? Or perhaps the way it's taught?
A little both. And so.
And since we have master teacher programs, although we do now in middle school, right? Do we have master teachers in the middle school now? I thought we had that.
Yeah, that's one of our questions. Okay. Tell me more, master teacher.
The program that I reviewed, that I'm not sure what the actual official name is, where
Instructional coaches?
instructional coaches.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Are we
Just want to make sure I answered the right question.
Right.
Are we getting help via the instructional coaches?
So our instructional coach in secondary is mostly for math. And so I will say math that will support our science because that 8th grade science test does have a decent amount of math on it. But his support mostly is in math classrooms. luckily enough, one of our assistant principals at the middle school is a former science teacher, and her focus is there. I'll be working with her this year on making
So
sure.
we do have a plan in
Yes.
place.
Yeah, it's not just, we'll hope we do better next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I have one more?
Yes.
So just for the public to keep in mind with this science test, it is 1/3 sixth grade content, 1/3 seventh grade content, 1/3 eighth grade content, and the kid takes it in eighth grade. So for us, behind the scenes, it's doing a diagnosis of that data and seeing, is it seventh grade skills? Are they really struggling in life science or physical science?
That's good.
Those different pieces, because you could be having a phenomenal eighth grade year and know everything in eighth grade, and you don't have 2/3 of the, content related to other subjects. So, and if you've ever met a middle schooler retaining information across multiple years, it's not always easy. So they've been doing a nice job of trying to build that curriculum so that it does spiral and catches that sixth and seventh grade content. We have some new dynamic teachers in that grade, new to us, but experienced science teachers.
Yeah, and some transition slower than others.
Yes.
Sixth grade is a terrible year.
But seventh is even more fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And our final school, New Canton High School, they have all 9 achievement areas. So they have everything, and if you look there, we're green across the board. So you have all the original 6 that we had looked at, and then you add in the graduation completion index. What that looks like is like, so a student gets an advanced diploma, we get a certain score. They get a standard diploma, we get a certain score. And all of that is put together to form an index, and you have to be at a certain level. Then we take a look at our dropout rate. It has to be below a certain level. And then college, career, and civic readiness index. What that looks at is students who are taking an AP dual enrollment class, students who are getting industry credentials. Several of those things that look at college career readiness, every student has to tick off one of those boxes. And so to do that, we're at green there, we're at like 96%, I believe, is what we were this year. So.
Do we have our own measurements about the career placement programs, like bridging and things like that?
So we have our own goals that we want. Like we want every student, when they walk across the stage at graduation, a plan of, hey, and ready for that plan.
So we have a career readiness index. Do we have a job readiness on those?
So, yes.
Cool.
That we're looking at, yes. As what are we doing with like workplace readiness skills and things like that? And what are we doing to make sure students are ready to walk ready for the job afterwards? Yes.
By the way, I have an anecdote for you.
Yes, sir.
And for the board as well. I do some business with the Toana John Deere dealership.
Yes.
And I walked in there, and the young man who was the salesperson, he walked me through the chainsaws, which is what I was looking at. And then I asked him if he worked on commission, and he said yes, but I'm going to point you to somebody else because next week, I'm going to be working as a mechanic. And I said, oh, that's interesting. How did you get the job, and where did you learn to be a mechanic? And he brought up bridging.
Nice.
Just wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you. So one also, in the last month, something that was put out was overall SOL pass rates. And these were, they were just flat pass rates, no growth involved in them. And so they put out the state average as well as by county and then by school. So I wanted to show you this, and we'll go through English, writing, math, science, social studies. So here's reading, so English reading. And went ahead, they gave us 23, 24, went ahead and went back 2022, and then jumped to 2018-19, because that is the pre-COVID year, and wanted you to be able to see sort of where we were there, and where the state was in comparison there. So on each top of each of these is the Virginia average, and then we have county, and then each of our schools. I'll tell you, over the 5 slides, there's 2 times that we're below state average. A couple times where we're not moving up, but and when I say like our score went down slightly in a few areas, But for the bulk, we went up in every area and we're above state average in all but, like I said, two blocks on the screen for this year. So,
And overall, we're 11, right?
16.
16.
Yeah, so overall, when you look at our overall pass rate, we're 16. We do have where we rank on every single test as well as in every subject area as well. But overall, when you look at our complete pass rate on everything, we're 16th in the state. So here, state average 73, as you can see, we're above state average everywhere. But at Quentin Elementary School for reading, but again, with new literacy this year, we're definitely planning on being above state average there as well this year.
Just to add on, Ross and I are sort of co-presenting this one. Quentin had an incredible growth story that is not represented here. This is just straight pass rate. Quentin grew kids like you wouldn't believe. So, I mean, we're gonna see their pass numbers jump because of the incredible work. I'm just excited we're beginning to get past pre-COVID numbers, and we're outpacing the state, which we've been doing,
Right.
but we're also getting back to doing better than pre-COVID in a lot of areas.
Yeah, if you look here, several of these are above pre-COVID, which is a great sign. So for writing, it's an odd story because so the state has been phasing out the writing SOL, and we're seeing the integration of a new type of test. I'll go over in a second. But so writing, stopped 5th grade writing well pre-COVID, and then 8th grade stopped 2 years ago. And so we didn't have SOL data for this past year, but at the high school. And so you see the high school continue to grow over last year, not back to where we were pre-COVID, but we're getting there. And we'll continue to see that go up. What we're going to, if you hold there for a second actually. So what we're going to see, the state has been piloting an integrated reading and writing SOL, and this year it'll go live at our 5th grade and our 8th grade. And so it has reading and a short writing prompt that is more content oriented than we've seen in the past. And so we will start to get an IRW, or integrated reading and writing score, moving forward. So next year you'll see a different sort of picture there. It'll be the first year with that test where that data is official. Okay, so here's math, and so with math, as you can see, we're above state average everywhere. We've continued to grow, and the only area we went down, one school here, not that far, and they have a definite plan as to how we're going to get that turned around and going back up. And so happy to be above state average here, though, by a decent amount, just about everywhere. So science, again, above state average everywhere but one school, and middle school, even middle school, that's where that yellow is. They did grow over last year, and so we're going in the right direction. We just want to pick up the pace a little bit on that. And but the rest of the schools there, they're above state average. Not everybody went up this year, so all the principals know we're refocusing there. We do have at New Kid Elementary School in George Watkins, we've added STEAM classrooms this year that will be focused on integrating the science and engineering skills as well. They'll support turning those scores around as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Miller, for the next presentation, as we continue on this, would it be possible to expand on the ones that were less than last year and/or like the science, or like the math and the science? If we could just get I'd like to see an expanded window on that and understand that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I have all the confidence in the world with you guys and the teachers and everything else, but those are concerns that constituents have that I would like to be able to say, okay, yeah, that is what the number says, but here's why, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
If we could do that, I would appreciate it. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that we are, this is gonna continue to increase and get better, but I still would like to be able to explain it and understand it a bit better.
Absolutely.
It would also be interesting at the same time to compare it with where we're doing our best and seeing what the differences are. Differences in student population, or are the differences in being able to target and teach the kids.
Thanks. What we can do, partner with Mr. Miller, we can zoom into those areas that have that concern and actually kind of show, here's our plan for this year, here are the strategies.
Tremendous.
So not only do we dive into the data and kind of tear it apart a little bit, but also public go, here's our plan, here's what we're gonna do, and then update you guys as we're going through.
But I think it's important to know what you're doing well.
Yes, sir.
As well as what you're not doing.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And 2 more slides, Dr. Nichols, I believe.
Yes, sir. So if we do the last 2, and board members, I just wanted to show you kind of where we are overall and how we're trending. So we've been as, oh my goodness, I've lost my screen. I think 76 out of 132 school divisions, 73rd. At one point in time, we were 73rd out of 132 school divisions. This is during our tenure as a team together. There was no SOL test in 2020 because of COVID. So our first set of results as a team, 36 out of 132. This year, we're 16th out of 132. We still have work to do, and we're relentless about that work. We have a whole new literacy plan in place. We've got all of these things, but really, it's moving in a great direction. And when you compare it to the next data point, so right now on pass rates, this is no growth, all pass, 16 out of 132. So we're in the top 12% of school divisions. Definitely want to be in the top 10 and higher. But when Haney's going to talk about per pupil funding in the next presentation, we're actually 124 out of 132 in per pupil funding. So 94% of school divisions spend more per pupil than we do. And also nobody who ranks ahead of us on SOL pass rates, so 1 through 15, ranks below us on per pupil funding. So that's my long way of saying we're the best value in the Commonwealth for how we utilize money to get student achievement. And
We
we're gonna
certainly
keep-
will be when we're number 1.
Yes, sir. Now, money doesn't solve all ills, but with more money, I think we could be even more amazing.
I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
that's just my plug that I throw in there every time, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I could be recognized.
yes.
This is the second or third time that I'm seeing this data, but seeing it up on the screen is more impressive. And I just want to say to Dr. Nichols' team, admin, staff, support teachers, everybody, bravo, kudos. This is what we're doing here. It's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you. Amy?
Mr. Reimer, board members, Dr. Nichols, I am required to bring to you the per pupil report for the year. What you'll see in here, and every year we do a report called the annual school report, which is due at the end of this month, which would be for 2024 data, and then that kind of gets released next year. So that's why this report kind of looks like it's a year behind. But we are reporting the state average for 22 and 23 years, both for New Kent and the state average, and then the budget number from 24 and 25. As Dr. Nichols said in the last presentation, we are 124 out of 131 total per pupil. I will say that our local amount is 54 out of 131, which shows a lot of the local support from the county, which we appreciate. Where we fall short usually is federal funding, just the nature of what we have here and what we're able to get in support for those federal programs.
Well,
But
that's actually good news, because as we all know, the federal funding tends to support failure, not excellence.
And I'd say the biggest one that we have is our 6B funding that we get annually, which is tied to the growth in the special education population in New Kent. We appreciate every dollar we get, that certainly helps. But again, that's really the driver, I think, of where we are overall in 24. And those are just the two that I like to highlight, with the local support being a bit higher.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Mr. Hawkins.
Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, again, good evening. I am here this evening with a proposal which would take our stadium and replace the natural surface that we have with an artificial turf surface. What you see up here, obviously, is not our field. That is a field that was recently completed in Henrico County, but it's very attractive and something we like to look at. Some of the challenges of natural grass, as you know, lots of mowing, watering, fertilizing, and with Mr. Spiak here, our high school AD, lots of lining of the field and time spent out there doing that when you have a natural grass field. We also have lots of areas that are prone to wear and tear, and that alternates depending on what sport we're talking about. So what we see is a decline in the playing conditions as we move on. Later on, you'll see there's a slide where I show the number of teams that we have playing, and it's a lot. Also, it's very difficult to maintain during extreme weather conditions. This week will be a perfect example. We have lots of games scheduled, and because of the weather conditions, after the rain goes away, we still will probably have some difficulty getting those games played in a timely fashion. We'll have to push off, play at an alternative site, or really push those games back to a farther time in the season where we could have a team that's playing 3 or 4 games in a week, unfortunately. And obviously with bad weather and a natural surface, you have game cancellations, which requires you to change things. What we do know is that we have lots of staff that come out to work games, and every time we have to push off on a game, it is changing their schedules, pushing them to come back at different times. So there's a lot of management that goes on when we have cancellations.
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing on this piece. Anytime we change a game, so we're supposed to play Grafton Friday nights, be a big gate, big concession. And if we get the rain we're thinking we're going to get tomorrow, we may not be able to play there. Or we'll have to postpone. We have to postpone a scrimmage. Anytime we're doing that, we're losing revenue to support athletics. So a good night, we get 5,000 at the gate. I don't know how many we get concession, but we get a lot. If we have to move it to this field back here, we can't control gate, we can't do concessions. So there's a revenue loss related to any time we can't play on the field. Correct. I talked earlier about the number of teams. This is a kind of a look at what we have that will be utilizing our field for their game purposes. It's a lot of different sports, and as I said earlier, the different sports, the impact on the field changes based upon which sport we're talking about. So it gets hard to maintain the facility, and by the time we get to the end of the year, it's usually not a very good playing surface. Other cost benefits of artificial turf, reduced maintenance costs, as we talked about, a longer lifespan, fewer cancellation, and increased availability for other events to take place on our fields. We also get to maximize the field use throughout the year. Safety and performance, what we do know is we're walking around and trying to evaluate our field after a rain event, after wear and tear. Different parts of the field are very different, without grass or very soft. And what we know is that that can have an impact on safety and health of our student athletes. So that's something that we're very aware of. The environmental impact of not having to utilize chemicals on the field. And as Dr. Nichols was talking about, what we do know is when we don't cancel events, Dr. Nichols, we make more money through both the gate and through concession stands. I apologize, not waiting to slide.
You're in charge. Here we go. Project timeline, obviously here this evening presenting to you all, and if you approve, our plan would be to present to the Board of Supervisors to request funding in a couple of weeks. If that goes through, we would then go down to the process of selecting a contractor. After we have selected a contractor, that process would take about 6 months. 2 to 3 months of that would be the actual construction phase. The first 2 or 3 months, obviously getting ready for that and all the background work that has to take place. And finally, budget. The estimate is about $2.3 million, and I say estimate, I can tell you pretty precisely what it would actually cost for the turf field to put it in if we didn't have any hiccups. With site work, if you're familiar with construction, things pop up. It is an older facility. The field was built in 1988. So we are not certain of what's going to happen when we start moving dirt around. And the other issue we have is the track. It is 12 years old. The original base of that right now is 12 years old. and there will have to be an evaluation as to what we need to do with that. Typical lifespan, if everything is going really good with the undercoating of the track, is 24 years. So if things haven't cracked, if there's not seeping going on, we could have save some costs potentially in the track. If there are issues with that foundation, then some expenses could go up. But some of that will come through after we select the contractor and do some of the architectural and engineering work that we'd have to do to get the project done.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so this project does include the track?
Yeah, what our plan would be in phase one would be to replace the field, the grass field with a turf field, and a track upgrade. What we know we have to do at the minimum is the top resurfacing. Potentially what we would have to do if it is not in good shape, we would have to redo the base. So we're going to upgrade the track either way, the top part, and maybe have to redo the foundation.
Does that,
Mr. Pagano?
Good as well.
does that, as athletic director, is that a satisfactory, I mean, would it be better to replace while we're at it, rather than trying to fix something that's, we're gonna come back? My point is, we're not gonna be able to come back to this well over and over again.
Certainly.
Would
And numbers
it
to
not be
support that.
beneficial to go ahead and replace it and put a track in there at the same time you put the field in?
So the lifeline on the foundation of a track is about 24 years. And as I said, we're 12 years in. A turf field will last you, the warranty is going to be for 8 years, but if you do everything you're supposed to do, like you know Coach Stayak would, you're going to get 12 plus years out of it. Those timelines sort of match up long term. So it really comes down to, we have 12 years going forward if we know it's in good shape, and if we don't, we have to replace it.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think, Mr. Buck, to your, just to continue answering the question, we have one shot at this project. I want to do it the best we can, so if it means we need to put in, let's go ahead and invest and do that. So 2 years down the road, we don't have to go, hey, we need another.
That's my point, yeah.
And the same with the turf field. The lifespan of it really depends on the quality of turf that you get. So if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. So that's why we may have to come back to the board and go, to do this right, we need $200,000 additional dollars, but that means we can do A, B, C, D. Let's come together and do that. So we're on the same page with philosophically making that happen.
And our request, as Dr. Nichols said, we have asked for a higher level of the turf field. There are some lower levels for a couple $100,000 less, and you do not get the wear and tear or performance out of them. So we are going with a collegiate level performance track. That's what we're requesting. Field. That's what we requested.
Mr. Pagano?
And so I had 2 questions, one of which you guys already answered about the life expectancy of the new turf and stuff. But just for the public record, what is the source of funds for this project?
Right now, we are not certain what that number will be. We're going to the county in a couple of weeks to request funding for that.
So the county has put money aside through their capital reserve. So not coming through tax base, not coming through those pieces, really coming through monies generated through those exploited downs for a project like this. So what we're coming forward is a request to the county, in this range to fund this project. It is capital's one-time funding that is allocated, so that's the funding that we're looking at. So not operating, not grant, and nothing related to those pieces, or money we can use in any other format.
Right. Thanks, sir.
We couldn't use it at acquisitions or anything.
Yes, Mr. Buck.
All the other aspects of the field of that project are good. Bleachers, lights, I mean, is everything else?
No. So I think, I'll go ahead, Tom.
And Hopper, please jump in. So lights, we updated to LED, those are great 2-3 years ago. So that's in a good spot. I think there's a big facilities need there. If you've been there, concession stand, restroom, locker room. So ticket booth. Hopper mentioned phase 1. Moving forward in capital improvement planning, we would likely ask for a phase 2 for us to kind of work through. Our plan is to work inside out. So get the field track and then move to the other pieces. In a perfect world, I'd love to do it all, like right now. But the price tag on that is probably gonna be double, triple, what that would be to go all the way around.
And it's needed. Dr. Nichols had a lot of discussion with this when, at halftime of a football game, our football team goes into the weight room. And the visiting team has to go into the middle school. And so it's not top-rate facilities, and I know we're looking to do it the right way.
Yes.
So that's what our plan is in terms of proposal down the road.
And I think even more so, if a player is playing Grafton player has to use the restroom, our player has to use the restroom, and Grafton UTEC fans have to use the restroom, they're all going in the same restroom. That's a recipe for,
Yes.
so we've got some updates for that.
I assume that will be a proposal in the near future. Let's
Capital plan, yes, sir.
focus back on this. What do you think?
I think we are focused on this. I think that's the discussion. Should we expand it or leave it as it is? I don't see that it's going on. And I'll tell you, having refereed soccer in that field, it needs to be replaced. It's,
So now you got me confused. Okay, so you're asking that are you entertaining a motion that we consider expanding this?
no, Mr. Chair, I'm simply asking questions to get information. That's what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
One of the points that Mr. Hoffman has not included yet, but it's probably on the next slide as soon as I say it. So soccer, Mr. Clark, we don't play a regulation soccer field. This allows us to be regulation. We're not regulation field hockey, it allows us to be regulation. Yes, I know.
And with that, we can't host a regional, if we've had a great year, we can't host.
But that's included in this plan,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah, well, if we had a turf field, we would be able to compete and host. So
And that's what I mean. The current ask on the table would include a turf that it would allow us to play regulations.
The current ask would allow us to extend the turf from the entire inside of the track. I don't know the perimeter, the diameter of that, but I know it would increase the size of that field by at least 12 feet because we have gully there for drainage, so it would increase the playability in the surface area there. I don't know the actual square footage off the top, but it will increase the size of the field.
And this came through, so our high school principal and athletic director here, this came from, we're bringing that forward from them, from our coaches, from our athletes, from our community. So this is also a community project in that we can open it up, which we can't do now, for Falcons to play their Super Bowl on, or for big soccer check. We can't have any extra traffic on that field right now, and we really could make it a community space, so.
Any other questions? So I had a couple more.
Sure.
One of the things I would like to clarify, the turf has had a reputation for causing injuries. You mentioned that it can alleviate safety problems, and what's the current state of turf with regard to athletic injury?
Sure, and I think if you go back and look at some of the history of turf, it started off as like a slightly softer version than concrete, which has a longevity which would last 40 years. They have, through technology, been able to make it a softer landing. That's some of the issues that were coming through turf. It's more of a carpet feel versus a hard surface feel. Nothing is perfect. I wouldn't even dare to sit here and tell you that there are no injuries related to turf. But what I will tell you, the consistency in playing turf surface will prevent more injuries than the turf is causing.
That's exactly where I wanted to pull.
Yeah.
And second, you talked about the quality of the turf and choosing athletic or the collegiate level. One of the things that I think we ought to emphasize is return on investment. So how many additional years would that typically give us? And in terms of cost per year, what does that do to the project?
So proposal-wise, they will provide basically a spreadsheet which tells you the anticipated length for each of those fields and the cost associated. What I have seen so far, which has been unofficial, is that for every couple $200,000 to $300,000 you go up a level. What it does is it improves the quality. It doesn't greatly extend the warranty. So what I've been seeing is most of the warranties are 8 years. Most of them are lasting 12 to 15 with proper care. I think when you get to 15 years, regardless of whatever level you were at, it's gonna be time to replace if you've had the number of teams that we do that would be playing on.
So part of it depends from the usage of traffic as well, and we have high usage in traffic.
Yes. But we would also, part of our plan, I don't think it would be utilized as extensively for practices because of the number of teams we have that utilize it for gameplay. Gameplay is not as tough on it as practice play.
Got it. Any other questions?
No.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Now move on to old business. Dr. Nichols, report on the opening of schools and enrollment.
Yes, sir. Opening of schools is old business. We are in week 4. So just want to give you an update pretty quickly. Looking back and moving forward, we have a year in review document, which we'll be publishing soon. 2023, 2024 was a banner year for New Kent. So a lot of great things happened, and we're building on that foundation moving forward. So I'm not going to jump into those. Our first day was August 26th, the first time our first day has been before Labor Day, and we did okay. So just some pictures from around the universe of our kids. Ooh, you back up one more? Thank you. There we go. Our kids and our staff and everybody just having a fantastic first day. The first day was going so well, I didn't want to text anybody it was going well. Because I just wanted to keep the universe going. But it really was an incredible start from transportation, technology, our schools and our leaders. I think part of that is we did the heavy lift so early and got everything in people's hands by August 5th, and then it's just been tweaking ever since then. So we did, you may know this, implement a new cell phone policy. Basically, students are prohibited from using cell phones, personal communication devices. It was subject of a lot of meetings and a lot of conversation. I just want to thank our administrators and our teachers for mobilizing around that and have really done an incredible job. I sit on state committees and regional committees, and I've been able to talk about our work. And it's going pretty well in a lot of places, those that have moved forward. But nobody's really touching what we're doing here. So, and I think it's a testament to our staff. I think it's a testament to our students who've been phenomenal, and our families really rallying around us. It makes a lot of sense. I will tell you, lunches are louder, but it's good noise. Kids are talking to each other. I've talked to every user group we have, from staff to students to families. And students even reluctantly will start to share. It's been kind of nice to have that noise cut off, that the distraction is not there anymore. So just ahead of this governor's mandate or executive order. So I've looked at the guidelines, although they're not finalized. We meet or exceed every guideline they have. So when other schools January 1st have to shift, we just keep doing business as usual. So it's great. Staff has been relentless about implementing the consequences related to it, and the beautiful thing is we haven't had to do that a ton. Our kids have been very responsive. When we do take a phone, we typically don't have to take it a second time. And if we do take it a second time, those families are like, we're not doing this a third time. So it's really been fantastic. So thank you to the Kent Middle School, high school administration and teachers. I guess this is public, I spend time in lunchrooms and I try to see, can I take a phone? And class changes, just to see our kids really, you can't get one, and I challenge you to. So come with me, come anytime. Our kids have bought in and it's been fantastic. So that's the cell phone update there. Enrollment-wise, here's where we are. So this includes pre-K, which is an important distinction as we expand that. So right now, when I did this last week, 3,603. Watkins is showing good growth, Quinton is showing good growth. There are some bubbles in our data, so the high school is down a little bit because the freshman class is smaller than the senior class, significantly. So you see that data there. New Kent Elementary School is down, but we've made some shifts in programming. We moved pre-K classes to George Watkins, so all 3 have So that's mostly related to programs that have shifted, whether special ed or pre-K. So growth has slowed some in the county, but, we're still moving upwards. So 617, which is probably going on a little bit, 520, and then 557 across your elementaries. 832 as we look at potential of expanding New Kent Middle or New Kent Middle School, and then New Kent High School sitting right about where we thought maybe 57. There's your data and the trend related to it. So we can track that monthly. September 30th is a big day for us where we submit to the state, and then the March 30th deadline for funding. So that's enrollment. Some communications and community engagement, so I want to update you on some things that we're doing. We upgraded our website templates, so you can see what it used to be and now what it is. It's more mobile friendly. We've realized that most of our users are using it on a cell phone, and our website is not that friendly to it. So templates are now consistent across all 5 schools in the district site. We added family resources for student technology, so that's a conversation board members we had some last year about how can we support our families better with technology. So there's a page dedicated to that. Let's Talk is something we've rolled out for families. It's a customer service tool designed for school districts. There's a chat feature right on our website, and you see a picture of it. What resources are available for military families is the question that was typed in the chat. So it tells you exactly what's there, and it gives you a link to where it is on the webpage. We wanted to move in this direction because we know most people go to social media for the answers, which is fine. Most answers on social media are not correct. So how can we replicate that on our website so you type in just like you would on social media, did you get an answer from us? And it's linked so you can see the documentation. As of 9/11/24, we had 191 dialogues, so 191 uses. Our average customer rating is 9.9 out of 10. And it also tracks where they're coming from. So students, employees, parents, guardians, community members. So it gives us a lot of analytics behind the hood that tells us how we're doing and where we need to do better. So that's new this year, and we'll keep reporting that data to you. Back to school communications, a couple things that we did. School supply list was shared earlier than previous years. First year we had district-wide elementary school supply list, so the second grader at GW has the same list as the second grader in New Kent, and same as Quentin Elementary. It makes sense, we're doing the same curriculum, same expectations, those pieces. This is the first year, and this is really cool, that one-click shopping, so you can take that second grade list, click on a link, and it'll take you right to purchase all of that in a cart. So we tried to make it very user-friendly. I know people love going to Walmart and Target. I'm not one of those people. This is very helpful for us. Other back-to-school communications, we released a video on August 1st, webpage and all calls on the 4th, enrollment forms and basic information on the 5th, and then pickups and drop-offs on the 20th. So we stayed consistent in our connection with families all throughout August, which has helped us have a smooth start. A lot of members of our team said, I can't believe the start is this smooth. I'm like, we run a really good system. We do a lot of work to make it smooth. It's just behind the scenes. Reminder for our families' transportation, we have the EduLog parent portal, GPS activated. You can see where your bus is at all times. You can see if the bus changes. If you do not have this app as a parent, you've got to get this app. It is a game changer for families. So that is the opening of schools report. We're excited to be in week 4. We will blink and be on the graduation stage in June. So it is flying. So board members, be happy to answer any questions or anything you may have.
Any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
One of the things that I want to really congratulate the team on is not just this, but the enforcement of the dress code as well. And I think all this is going to be a lot of good things.
Yes, sir. Dress code has been another point of emphasis. Has not been as smooth as the cell phone, but we're relentless about enforcing policy, and we continue to do that. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols, you have a VSBA policy update as well.
Yes, sir. This was pushed at the last meeting, so this is the second read of the VSBA policy updates, and it is before you for potential action tonight. I don't know if the board has any further questions from regarding the policies, and I'd be happy to answer. Most of them are technical in nature, updating code, updating action from General Assembly, and so forth.
Any
No
questions?
questions.
No question.
Okay. Mr. Pagano, do we have a strategic plan committee review?
So I am pinch hitting tonight for Ms. Cunha, who is out sick. I am on the committee, but my role in the committee is oversight more than operational. What I can share with you guys, other than reading to you what's on the board, which I'm not going to do, is that the first meeting, my impression of it was the turnout was great. Most of the people in this room were there, including myself. Staff, administrators, parents, board members, Dr. Nichols, Mr. Miller leading, presentations on the data. Ms. Cunha and Mr. Dombrowski deserve the credit for spearheading this and putting it together. Overall, I thought there was a great first review of the data. There was a lot of powwow, a lot of questions, and so on and so forth. There's more meetings to come. I believe the next meeting is October 1st at 6 p.m. And the goal now will be to narrow the data points to set specific targets so that we can then implement and develop this plan. There was a lot of minds asking questions and speaking, these ideas at the first meeting, and it was great to see, but we now need to get it sort of narrowed in and on the rails so we can hit targets. And what came to mind when Mr. Miller was giving the presentation with the blue screens that were up on there, seeing where we rank in certain areas versus the state on SOLs and things like that. So for the public, that's one of the things that the strategic plan is about. So if there is, a score at one school where we're hitting 70, or our goal is to do better than that next year, right? So we're putting these data points together, gathering the information we need. I think it's going to answer a lot of the board's questions about where do we sit and where is this stuff coming from, and then how do we improve upon it with actual numbers and actual goals and actual timelines that are set on that, which is the purpose overall of the strategic plan. So that's what I've got on that.
Thank you, Mr. Pagano. Mr. Watt?
No questions.
So at this point in time, we usually have citizen comments, but nobody signed up for citizen comments today, so we'll move on to our action items. The first item on the list is consideration of approval for the VSBA policy updates. Do I hear a motion to approve the VSBA policy updates?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
Ms. Davis, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye. The updates to the VSBA policies have been approved, unanimous vote of the board. Next is the consideration of approval for Mr. Hockman's proposal for CIP for the athletic facilities.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion and second has been made. Ms. Davis, could you please poll the board?
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye. The motion is passed unanimously. So we are now moving on to comments by the school board and superintendent. Mr. Pagano, comments?
Yes, short but brief. Thank everybody again for hard work, participation, your efforts, especially with opening the school, and especially with the new policies we put in place. The cell phone policy as a parent are free. That's tough. I don't talk to my kids anymore, but that's probably a really good thing, right? And also the dress code. Myself being a dad of 2 young girls, I'd like to see it enforced even more, right? And I know it's tough for you guys to do on a daily basis, so thank you for making that a priority, enforcing it, and all your hard work. It really means a lot.
Mr. Rob?
I concur with Mr. Pagano, and want to thank everyone who made this an amazing school year. I've received several calls, emails, comments, especially about high school and the new wind and breeze that's blowing in through the high school and the appreciation. So thank you. And we knew that was going to happen, but we get actual comment back, and it's all positive. And it's an amazing thing. I'm grateful for the dress code also, and how that's being enforced. I had a personal experience with that, which was quite funny. I won't go into it, but it proved to me that yes, that policy is working, especially there. Congratulations, Dr. Nichols, administrative staff, all of the teachers, coaches, everyone. I personally I am so beaming proud of New Kent County school system and where we are and where we're headed. Are we perfect? No. I don't think perfection is something. We're striving for excellence and we're headed in that direction. And I am just ecstatic about what's been going on. So thank you all. Sincerely, thank you.
Dr. Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Reimer. I spoke quite a bit tonight, so I just want to thank everybody for an incredible start. It's an honor and privilege to live, work, and serve here, and I get to work with amazing people and an incredible community, and 3,600 plus really fun, amazing students. So, board members, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the great start, pushing some of that policy forward so that we got working on it. So, thank you, sir.
I have nothing to add. Thank you. You all are dismissed. We are going into closed session. So, do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. Please poll us.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye. So we are now in closed session.